YouTube says it has had enough of vaccine misinformation on its site.
And false stories from phony sites to run circles around major news outlets.
Many people don't know the difference between something real and something created to deceive them.
Open your eyes.
If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show, exclusively here on acallforanuprising.com. I want to make sure everybody out there knows, if you're watching this video on the website, that I did start 2 new YouTube channels. I'm not uploading on them yet, but I could use your help in building those channels out. So you can look them up on YouTube. They are called A Call for Resistance and New World Psychosis. Those are the names of the 2 channels. I'm going to try something different with those channels, but in the meantime, please subscribe to those channels if you haven't yet. And if you're looking for my content, again, you'll always find it here on the website, so you don't have to worry about finding it on YouTube. But if you like to watch it on YouTube as well, they'll be in both spots here on the website and on YouTube. But for the time being, I'm still only uploading on the website. And I might actually upload this video to Rumble to try to drown out the noise, because, of course, the alt-right media would cover this as if it wasn't some type of Manchurian candidate situation. They cover these things as far as activists go, then they downplay the activist, or they talk about the activist possibly being gay, and they never go into how the government creates all of these types of events. Whether this is a false flag or a psyop, it doesn't make a difference, because the government is responsible for it. These people are walking, talking Manchurian candidates. You could see this video I'm going to play for you if you haven't heard about the guy that lit himself on fire outside of the Israeli embassy. That's right outside of the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. Now, very convenient things to watch. I'm going to play this clip for you. You can fast forward through it if you don't want to see it. The part of him setting himself on fire is blurred out, but you could watch the lead up to it. It's a very, it looks very much like a Manchurian candidate, but it also looks like it was supposed to happen, because the amount of time it takes for them to put the fire out, right, while the guy is trying to light himself on fire and struggling to set the match for over 10 seconds. Somebody could have went up there and stopped it from occurring, and of course nobody did. Now also keep in mind how he places his phone specifically very perfectly on the ground. Very much perfectly. And I might say it's on a stand. Well, he clearly had to plan out the perfect spot. He probably had to have an X drawn right on the road on the spot that he put this, so that this would go perfectly. Because just imagine that he went through this. He laid his whole life. He's 20-something years old. He went through his whole life to kill himself, to make a political statement. Just God forbid the camera wasn't actually on him, or the camera fell off the stand. So, of course, conveniently for his sake, it worked out okay, because if it didn't, well, we wouldn't have this story to talk about. And, of course, we wouldn't have the media and the people who are falling into the World War III psyop, just like I've mentioned many times over, the blueprint for World War III, which has been told to us time and time again through the books of Albert Pike, through the teachings of the Masonic lodges, about the Third World War, which will occur between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam and political Zionism mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on the issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. And you can watch these psyops, how they play out. And you look at the response of people who are Democrats and people who are Republican, it's formulated. Their responses are formulated. The conservatives are making fun of this guy for lighting himself on fire, for, saying, hey, he lit himself on fire, life just goes back to normal, nice job, buddy, making a joke of it. While the other side is all upset, and they look at him as a martyr and a hero. These people are in such a psychological, just absolute, their minds are so warped that they believe all of these stories are actually real. They don't realize that the government creates these stories. We can go through thousands of documents from the CIA, Manchurian candidates, the Nuremberg Code, all this type of stuff. But let's start here. Here is the footage of him You'll even hear a lisp in his voice. I wouldn't be surprised if we find out later on that he actually was gay, because that'll make him an even bigger hero in the eyes of Democrats. But this is Manchurian Candidate Stuff 101. And from the response of the people who got on the scene, it seems very deliberate to let him actually stay on fire to the point of death. They could have prevented it, because somebody was right by the camera when he put it there saying, sir, 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 while he was trying to light himself on fire. It was pretty clear that he dumped stuff on himself, that he was going to light himself on fire, and he couldn't even get the match to light, but they let him take his time to make sure the match lit first, and then, of course, let him burn long enough. And then, of course, a man shows up holding a gun to him for no reason whatsoever. So this looks completely staged, done by design. This looks like Manchurian Candidate 101. Okay, and if you don't believe in Manchurian candidates, get with it. They program these people to do what they want. Some call them sleeper cells. Other people call them super soldiers. Same difference. These are mind-controlled zombies that will do whatever they're told to do without even blinking or hesitating, which you can see here because this guy has zero emotion before he sets himself on fire.
Aaron Bushnell. I am an active duty member of the United States Air Force, and I will no longer be complicit in genocide. I'm about to engage in an extreme act of protest, but compared to what people have been experiencing in Palestine at the hands of their colonizers, it's not extreme at all. This is what our ruling class has decided will be normal.
What is this? Who is this?
So again, we also have in the Illuminati card game, we have the political activism card, for those of you that don't know. Okay, all of these things are all strategically in this card game. That doesn't mean that this specific story obviously was planned out in advance. It's not big enough of a story, but anti-war activism is a big thing. Emotionally sucking people in to getting involved in these wars, whether, you know, they're political activists against the war or just people who are unhinged about all the stories they hear of war. Meanwhile, let's be real. This is a perfect example. Seeing everything that's going on with this Hamas-Israel war is a perfect example of how hive-minded conservatives are as well. Because the state of Israel is behind all of it. The state of Israel and the Mossad control Hamas. Okay? They work with one another. They work hand in hand. They're murdering civilians in both countries, but it's the Israeli government that is the war machine. Okay? They want you to, to divide in a political divide over this. And we see all conservatives are leaning with Israel. They have no knowledge about the Mossad. They don't seem to care about the Mossad's involvement in September 11th. They just automatically think that Israel's God's chosen people. They think that they're awake. They mock liberals because of some of the crazy stuff that liberals are on board with. And most of these conservatives are just proving right now, by where they're standing with this war, this staged war, that they're doing exactly what Israel wants them to do, which is side with them. They're siding with the devil himself. I mean, that's how insane this is. So those people are just proving, just like I've said for years, the political activists, as far as the alt-right movement and siding with Israel, just shows you that they are just as dumbed down and controlled and controllable as the left are. And this is a perfect example of it. So this looks like a Manchurian candidate situation. The story that's out there, let me read some of it to you so you have a background on the guy. You saw him, there's some pictures out there of him, pictures of him posting his cat and stuff on social media. Again, I mean, you could see where this is going. He's going to be some type, I would guess, he's going to, we're going to find out that he was gay and he's looked at as a real hero. Everyone's tweeting that he's a hero. Apparently, that's what a hero is in today's society, setting yourself on fire for no reason whatsoever. But that just shows you the warped mind that everybody in this world has at the moment, right? So he's an Air Force officer, set himself on fire outside the Israeli embassy in D.C. in protest against the war in Gaza. And he did recently die. Now, if they ran up there and, got him out of, put the fire extinguisher on him earlier, he might not have died, but it looked like they were conveniently waiting. You might say, well, they didn't have a fire extinguisher on standby. Well, they saw him trying to set himself on fire for like 2 minutes. Somebody could have just jumped up there and tackled him. Somebody could have, not 2 minutes, but how long was he standing there trying to light himself on fire? Okay. So clearly they were told to stand down, whoever was around there. They probably protected the area to make sure that no other civilians tried to put the fire out until it was way too late. So Aaron Bushnell, 25, was an aspiring engineer and seeking the transition out of the military. The U.S. Air Force confirmed on Monday that he succumbed to his injuries overnight. And again, he's being looked at as a hero on the left and a lunatic on the right. The simple fact of the matter is nobody is such an activist so much so that they would set themselves on fire, okay? Nobody would set themselves on fire for a cause that they don't even know what's going on or what's real and what's not real. Okay, but of course they chose a military guy, and then this plays into, Israel's angry now at the U.S. military. That's some of the narrative that's out there. This is all deliberately, strategically done. They are going to drive people completely insane over this matter, and people aren't even going to realize they're all siding with the wrong people anyway. Nobody should be siding with Mossad or Hamas, period. Nobody should be. Civilians should just be siding with civilians against these monsters. That's what we should be doing. Right? It's not civilians who are going to war. It's these governments. It's the global governments who are all working together, going to war with one another, killing civilians off in the name of war. Civilians should be going, I don't care what your background is. We need to stop these psychopaths. And if anything has been proven over the last couple of years, it's that all of these people in positions of power are psychopaths. Okay? They're beyond psychopaths. Whether it's Trump, whether it's Biden, all of them are. Barry Soetoro himself, Barack Obama, all of them are. And everyone, if they had that mindset, they stayed out of the divide, the civilians would be able to stop this from happening. But as long as you stay in the divide, and as long as you have your alt-right media pumping the divide, talking about this issue as if, they wouldn't even mention. You think Ben Shapiro and these guys for a minute would start talking about Manchurian candidates or any CIA operatives? They talk about that stuff like it's not real. Like Nuremberg Code and all that stuff isn't real. Like MK Ultra's not real. Everybody out there wants you to think when they hear videos like mine, when I'm talking about these topics, like they're make-believe, like I'm telling you a script of a movie. This is documented. Just like weather manipulation is documented. The CIA has patents on all of this stuff, especially mind control technology. But people just don't want to believe that they can control people and turn them into straight up sleeper cells or turn them straight up into super soldiers. And literally with the snap of their fingers, they'll off themselves. They build up altars in their minds through trauma and other mind control experiments that they do in these people. And these people, within a blink, by a code word, whether it's something that they see, a song that's played, they're programmed to kill, whether it's themselves or other people. They're not, I don't want to say they're no longer human, but in a sense they're not. right? But nobody talks about that issue. It's just a matter of politics, because all the alt-right media wants to do is keep you stuck in these politics. So the horrific video of the incident showed Bushnell explaining the reasons for his extreme act of protest while he walked up to the building and screamed "Free Palestine" as his body went up in flames. The fire burned for more than a minute before police and security staff managed to extinguish it. And isn't it amazing how with this left-right divide, that if you're a Democrat, you automatically have to be pro-Palestine. Meanwhile, the Democrats are the same people who silenced the majority of us from speaking about Israel. All these years we've talked about Israel. They still won't let us talk about the things that we discussed with their books, right? Talking about the Talmud, etc. You still hear liberals who want to silence that and say that that's anti-Semitic, but when it comes to the war, you have to side with Palestine, and you could be anti-Israel. But you can't be anti-Israel to the point where you're talking about the blood libel, or you're talking about all the stuff in their books that talk about raping kids. You know, that stuff you can't discuss. That's still considered anti-Semitic. Pretty amazing, right? So the active duty airman was a DevOps engineer based in San Antonio, Texas. Bushnell was pursuing, again, a bachelor's degree in computer software engineering. He had apparent links to at least 2 anarchist groups, Burning River Anarchist Collective and Mutual Aid Street Solidarity, both of which are based in Ohio. Bushnell followed the groups on Facebook, of course. So there's a little tie in there, because most of these militant groups that they allow to exist are CIA bases, right? They're not organic. The civilians are not. You think they're letting civilians at this point start anarchist groups that are anti-government? Okay, they're not even letting us speak online. Yeah, I'm sure there's all these militant anarchist groups that are talking about dethroning, overthrowing government, and you have a military guy in it. I mean, give me a break. He would have been thrown out of the military for having an affiliation with them. It goes on to say he was seen. This is just par for the course, right? He was seemingly raised as a devout Christian in a devout Christian family, and even worked for a Christian book and music publisher based in Mass, where his mother still works. According to the company's website, his father owns a construction company. During his youth, Bushnell performed in a local indoor marching band called Spirit Winter Percussion. Video shows how Bushnell approached the heavily guarded Israel embassy on DC's International Drive just before 1 p.m. on Sunday. He was in combat uniform and speaking into a camera. That's another thing. It's very heavily guarded, okay, Israeli embassy. You might say, well, what do you think? That he was walking down Fifth Avenue in Times Square and it's like open to the public? What, because he had a military uniform on, he was allowed to do that? You don't think they would check his canister to see that it was filled with some type of gasoline? That wasn't Jack Daniels that he poured on himself to get lit up that fast, okay? And even if it was Jack Daniels, they wouldn't be letting him walk around with that either. I mean, these things are obviously allowed to be done. Then, of course, I love how these things get up on the internet and stay there for a while. Because, for those of you obviously here on the website, or maybe if you're hearing it somewhere else, for those of you that know, I've made this very clear. I put videos up unlisted, never with like footage like this or like the big psyop we just saw with the guy decapitating his dad on YouTube. They see this stuff immediately. The algorithm auto flags it, okay? And you will not be able to ever get it live, let alone have it up there for minutes and minutes and minutes. It could tell if it's a serious situation of like somebody lighting themselves on fire. The algorithm can tell. Okay, so it's not going to last up there, let alone last up there so it could get circulated all over the internet so people like us could all have copies of it, right? So, people out there are sharing some of the posts that he posted online. Then it goes on to talk about he walked for 30 seconds, passing the Chinese embassy, right? Nobody saw any security guards till the end. As he reached the embassy, he placed the camera on the ground. Like I said, perfectly placed the camera, so that it would pick up everything. He didn't seem nervous about like, hey, let me put the camera down. Let me walk up, let me figure out if the camera's on me or not. He's probably doing it with somebody else. There's probably somebody walking with the camera with him. That would be my guess, who made sure that he was on camera, probably gave him a signal behind the camera to say, yep, you're perfectly positioned for this. Because just imagine that, imagine he went all the way up there, the camera fell over, the camera was pointing a little bit to the left and he wasn't center screen. I mean, it would make the whole thing, very less important. And of course the story is important. Now, one of the things that you hear as well is that the liberal media, or the liberals are claiming that the mainstream media is controlled by Israel. They're finally waking up to that, huh? But then they don't realize how they're getting gaslit day in and day out by the same Israeli-run media. And they're like, they won't cover this on the news because they're not free. They're not pro-Palestine. It's like, these people are just so warped. They can be moved and manipulated however they want to. These people fall for everything. So that's part of the narrative that's out there as well. But remember the activist card, Okay? The activist card is important, not because, because the activism in itself is something that they try to create. They create fake events so that people become bigger activists and do things like this. Now, this is obviously a military operation. This is clearly a Manchurian candidate. It's very, very clear. There's not some random guy. He didn't just walk there. Nobody stopped him. Somebody was asking what he was doing. He continued to do it. Nobody shot him or shot him in the knee before he could light himself on fire to prevent him. It's all just, it's very easy to see, but people think that organically a lot of this stuff is real. That's why when I talked about that shooting at the Buffalo grocery store, the fact that people actually saw that and didn't step back and go, holy crap, this is fake. They actually were buying it. There was fake blood splatter. There was people on the floor with no blood by them after getting shot 30 times. I mean, it's one of the fakest things we've ever actually seen footage of, where not the government, but the mainstream media released the footage and said this is the body footage from the actual shooter. It was ridiculously bad, and people out there saw that and actually thought it was real. Now, we always talk about Sandy Hook. I mean, anybody who saw that and saw the acting and the duping to light and actually fell for that, if you fell for that, then you pretty much would fall for anything, right? So, people out there want to point a finger and go, hey, look, this is this guy is a pro-Palestinian. Mossad runs and controls all of it. So in a sense, for once, the liberals are actually right about something because they're realizing that Israel is an enemy to humanity and it's not what they think it is. But since they're trying to lump Israel up with Christians to make Democrats hate Christians even more, and Christians are so dumb that they don't even, especially like the QAnon Christians, the ones who claim to be awake, everybody's a conspiracy theorist now. And they listen to Russell Brand, they think that they're awake. And they listen to Ben Shapiro and they think that they're awake. And you don't even know what any of these operations are. They don't know anything about our own government. They're just like, yeah, the CIA is corrupt. Oh yeah, well, what do you think they made Manchurian candidates for? What do you think that they make and do all this, the MK Ultra experiments on people for? It's events like this are very easy to see that this is just a staged thing and it works really well into the political divide and watching how people react to it. And then even having Mossad themselves play, I can't believe that we're disappointed an American soldier would side with Hamas. It's an utter joke. The government psyops have gotten worse and worse and worse. But anytime you see one of these things, let's just ask basic questions, right? The camera positioning, okay? The fact that there's all armed security all around that area, and it took that long to get the fire out, so much so that he died. I mean, give me an utter break. I'm so sick of seeing people talk about this stuff like it's real. And then they get upset. They're like, how can you fake? Why? Not everything's fake. No, it is. Okay, when I first woke up, I wanted to believe that not everything was fake. And then you start realizing everything is fake. That they create these stories right out in the news for you to see because it psychologically works on you. Because if you think it's a real thing that's occurring, then they could herd you how they want to herd you. And that's why they do these types of events. So political activism, the Illuminati card, in play right there for you to see, everybody. What's the exact word on there? Anti-war activists. Give me a break. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless all of you and your families as always.